Okay, this is Reverend Joseph Andrew Jensen Sr. Right now, as I'm on watching a show, I woke up and I started watching a TV show. I was on TUBI TV already, and anyway, long story short, a program called Bitcoin, the end of money as we know it, was on Bitcoin. This is how God works. He has me see things like this for the first time. And this whole thing is very interesting because it's going to talk about Bitcoin as the end of money as we know it. It thought Bitcoin was supposed to be like the end of money. However, only 20 million people caught on to it. At least only 20 million Bitcoin have been issued. Well, right now, this is about a whole nother thing, because now it's going to be GODScoin. And it's going to be the truth that GODScoin is going to be the end of money as we know it. It's never going to be the end of money, because GODScoin is not a currency. It is a share. Now, the God in me, whether you've been from me or not, the God inside me, which there's a God inside, the same God is inside you and all living things. That's the reason you're breathing. That's the reason you could see things. And I'm holding this phone, so it's moving around some. But the point is, I'm trying to make a podcast while I'm thinking about it, while God is alive. You're talking to me to make this, and God's saying that there'll always be money, there'll always be currency, but there has to be something that backs up the currency, some commodities, just like what Bitcoin is talking about. There's got to be a commodity. Well, you see, the commodity is GODScoin. Because GODScoin itself will be the end of money in the backing of the money. Why? Because collectively, the world has two things in common. First, everybody's a human being. Second is God. Actually, God's first. You wouldn't have life. You wouldn't have breath. You wouldn't have anything without God. Okay? Actually, you got several things in common. There was God. There's family. There's money. We all have to eat. We also have to, to digest. We have so many different attributes that are the same. God, because God's living, He's living in all us. I guess He too has to do all the same things we do, including eat. If He doesn't eat, God won't exist. He can't exist in us. We'll be dead. If we don't drink, God dies too. So in that sense, God has to do everything that we do, and does do everything we do. God is the one phenomenon that we can't name. I said before, we're not plugged in. We're not running like, we've got to be filled up like a car with gasoline. We are all talking, walking, and thinking. We're different than any other type of energy. E equals mc squared. I told in previous videos that for 20 years I've been speaking in tongues. But I also know one thing that God's always said in tongues. I don't know the words of everything that God tells me, but I do know what I'm thinking about when I'm talking to Him, and I can repeat that. But when God says, kaputai, shila kaputai. Kaputai means my name is Ai. Ai, kaputai. Then if he says shila kaputai, and you see he's mad when he says that. Like, listen to me. Listen to me. Shila means listen. Kapota means I am. Ai. I like to think that Ai stands for internal energy. E equals MC squared. E is energy. Internal energy. E equals MC squared. As I pointed out before, that Einstein wasn't the smartest cookie on the block, because he never figured out where God lives. Neither has most. It goes for most 100% of the people on this planet. The way I see it right now, because nobody seems to be. I don't know what people say things with words, but their actions show a different thing. They're not. Why am I the only one that seems to be acknowledging God? They're looking for Him in the sky. They're looking for Him in another universe, in another dimension. It's a crazy thought. How it got started and all this theorizing and theology and theories is no more than man. It's the same thing that separates us from God. The Arabic word is mushkila. It's a problem. Everything separates us from God, because we came into our own thinking. Now let's get back to Bitcoin and GODScoin. Bitcoin was supposed to be the end of money as we know it, and it was almost like this video is almost showing it like a panic, like it's going to be the same as GODScoin. No, it's not. First off, the way GODScoin works is everybody in the world is going to have GODScoin. Why? Because we have that in common. We all have God within us, whether we realize it or not. Whether you believe that or not, you have God within you. I don't know how many people don't realize that we all have DNA. All plants have DNA, all animals have DNA, insects have DNA, anything living has DNA. DNA is heaven. It is heaven. It's where you'll return to your DNA, because you're never dead anyway. Just like God, we cannot die. Why can't we die? Because we're living in our children, and all the children of our bloodstream and our entire family are alive. Ancestors are alive inside our DNA. Like the dinosaurs, if we were to die, that it's some year it's possible to bring back a dinosaur. It's possible. They've already brought back woolly mammoths, but they've been dormant for all those years. God is the same way. God has to we have to have children in order for God to live. If we don't have children, God has no place to live, neither does our DNA. Our DNA will stay in us, like a woolly mammoth. They had to find live DNA. Now, the reason they were able to find woolly mammoths and they were reborn again, as they found live DNA that was frozen in glacial ice and ground in time. So they could still find some DNA that was alive to be reborn for one reason or another. Whether it's frozen into thing, I don't know what causes that. I'm not a scientist in that sense. I only do what God tells me to say, and God's telling me right now to get on with it. He said, okay, GODScoin, I have a new mission in life. In another 2 days, I will be flying from Charleston, South Carolina to Cairo. Once in Cairo, I'll spend 28 days in Cairo. I will professionally make a commercial. In 28 days, that's going to explain this very same thing. Bitcoin, as we know it, is the end of money. No. GODScoin, even GODScoin, is going to be the end of money as we know it. It's not going to collapse the world because God is giving us money. The God in me wants to be heaven on earth. That doesn't mean he's popular with all God. With God, it means he's a part of God that wants to start over and be able to heaven on earth. This time we're going to be given the chance to start to create heaven on earth, but we're not going to make the same mistakes. No way we're going to make the same mistakes. It's all going to start with Bitcoin. Actually, it's not starting with Bitcoin. It's going to start with the people that go to my website and make purchases, dollar for dollar, until November. Dollar for dollar. And I might still let people buy dollar for dollar. I say dollar for dollar. Every country has their own dollar, their own first unit of money. So don't get that confused with American dollars. We're talking about, we're going to just call it everybody's currency is a dollar, the first unit of money. What is it? It's a Burundian franc, a Congolese pound, a Central African, a Congolese franc, a Central African franc, an Egyptian pound, a Sudanese pound, a Mozambique metal. All these things this unit of money will be equal to a GODScoin in every country, relative to what it's worth to the poorest country in the world, which is Burundi, relative to the Burundian franc. Right now, it takes 5,000 Burundian franc to make up $1. So what's going to be? It means that soon, if the Burundian franc is equal to the dollar, that means it's going to cost America. But it's going to cost America a lot more. Burundian franc's going to be worth a lot more I guess what I'm trying to get to the point, and I'm trying to overthink this, but that's good. God's telling me don't overthink it. The thing about it is, I'm going to be trading 2 GODScoins for 1 Bitcoin. 2 GODScoin for 1 Bitcoin. That immediately means that a GODScoin is going to be worth $33,000 a piece. Why? Because they got 2 coins, 2 Bitcoin at $66,000. I take that back. I was wrong again. See, I'm not listening to God because God's correcting me. A GODScoin will be worth $66,000 because if I give 2 for 1, The fact of the matter is, the first person that trades in a Bitcoin for 2 GODScoin is going to maintain the value of one back, because there's only got to split it with me. They're splitting $66,000 with two $66,000 coins. So they're immediately setting that GODScoin will be worth the same thing as a Bitcoin, because I'll get one and they keep the other, but they're still giving me 2. Because I don't keep money. As soon as it is comes to me, the banks itself will disperse it among how many accounts are open. Now it's not going to go slow, because $66,000 is going to also allow me to go to each country and say, okay, this money's available to you. Boom, I'll pick out the countries each time. Now there's one of the countries, 2 of the countries will be done at the same time. That's Jordan and Palestine, to end the war. That's what the purpose of this whole thing was. When I was asked by my friend Sam that bought my house, what can I do about the war? Well, I was about to go see the Ayatollah. Now, but the thing about it is I'm not going to go into all that. The point is, I'm trying to say that Bitcoin is coming. I'm going to one country, a different country every month, except for in the West Bank. And when I'm in the West Bank, in Palestine, I'll spend three months, 90 days. Then I'll go to a country every month. But even before, I don't have to go to a country to start GODScoin. I'm just starting with GODScoin. I'm starting with opening my web store and allowing people to buy my books or buy GODScoin, dollar for dollar. That's it's going to happen immediately as soon as I get to Cairo in 1 week. That's the first surefire way that people are going to start understanding who I am and what I'm all about. I'm God's messenger. I've been God's messenger for 5 years, since June the 9th, 2019. I'm going to make a professional movie and show, which is good. We even tell about this show that's on TV right now that I was watching until I made this, called Money as Bitcoin, the end of money as we know it. Now it's going to be GODScoin, the end of money, Bitcoin, and all currency as we know it. The new world that you guys are about to experience, followed by Bitcoin, will not have to pay for any health care, will not have to pay for any education, will not have to pay for any daycare. It'll give up every woman 1 year off with unlimited money, having unlimited money given to her for her whole family to care for that child, to make sure that child gets born right. What woman is not going to want to have children if they get a year of unlimited money? She already has the ability to have daycare once it's born, even a nanny, a live-in nanny for free. Nobody's going to have to pay for free. It's going to be the end of crime. It's going to be the end of government. It's going to be the end of all things. It won't be the end of government, but the government, everybody that's 18 years old and older will be 18 years old to our voters. When all activity for banking will be done by phone. All voting will be done by the same phone. The banks will give you a phone when issue you a phone this time. They're representative of whichever phone company the bank chooses will be there at the bank to set up your facial recognition, voice recognition, your hand geometry, and your fingerprints. The banks will add passwords to that, take their own still photos like they would the passport photos, still photos of you, identify you, and all banking will be done by phone. At your presence, somebody that's 18 years old that's inside that household, whether related or not, that will be able to do all the people in the household's banking at one time. Everybody will have GODScoin. The total population of this planet will have GODScoin. That's from a newborn baby to the oldest person. GODScoin immediately tell us how many people are on this planet. It's not going to collect any data about where you live or anything. It's got all the data you need. It's got your face recognition, voice recognition, your fingerprints, and your hand geometry, your grip identification. Like I said, the banks will add a password possibly. I am just kind of the messenger of God's message, and the message is God wants to make heaven on earth, and He also wants. In June 9th, 2019, when God gave me God's message, He told me He didn't have hands, He didn't have feet, He didn't have a mouth. And we've been blaming God for everything, but He has never had these things. Now I gave Him my hands, my feet, my mouth, and for the last since before Christmas last year, He's had my hands and feet and mouth since that day on June the 9th, 2019. But He put me on the go, and I started traveling. The first place I traveled was Joel Osteen's church. I haven't even been back a month from Jordan. I was in Petra, Jordan. But I am going back to Cairo. First place I went after I saw Joel Osteen was to Africa, to Bujumbura in Burundi, Africa. So I'm going to end this broadcast with this because it's going to start very soon, and like I said, start with my website, and then it's going to Bitcoin. Bitcoin has no reason to keep their Bitcoin and not go to GODScoin because they can't compete. GODScoin has to get to, right now, the estimate count is over 9 billion people in this world. But we're not just talking about the 9 people in this world, we're talking about all future generations as well. Everybody has God, and everybody will have GODScoin. It'll be based on that, and GODScoin will, you'll have more money than you can ever spend. That's why money will still be around in everybody's currency. Because GODScoin hasn't been broken up, it's not going to be a coin. It's not a physical currency, it's a share. A share of what? Of every country's currency that they need to do it's backing everybody's currency. It's the backing of everybody's currency. And how is that going to be? Well, because everybody has 20 years, because GODScoin it has a shelf life of 20 years. Use it or lose it. In 20 years, God wants to create heaven on the earth. Everybody's going to build their own piece of paradise. Why? Because we all share God in our lives, our family in our lives, and our unborn are in our lives, already created. So what's this? I'm going to make this short because I'm going to make it professional when I get to more professionally without these backgrounds or distractions in a proper way, in a studio maybe, when I get to Cairo. I'll be there a month and I'll be able to do a lot more. I'm going to leave you now. This is just a short podcast of what I'm going to be doing because it's important, because I just got through, like I said, I'm watching this show where it was predicted that Bitcoin was going to the end of currency as we know it. It's only got to 20 million people. When now you got 9 billion people physical in this planet today. That's not a very good showing. I'm going to leave you. Good night.